Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about the second chakra, which is called Svadhisthana. It is the sacral chakra, so it's located in the same region as your sexual organs, and it is underneath, in the lower part of the abdomen. That's the area for Svadhisthana, the sacral chakra. It's represented by the color orange and by the element water. So I think it's really interesting how it's represented by water, since earth is right below it with the Muladhara. So as earth provides that stable base, that foundation, water is the movement that flows above it. If you think about it like water's formless, right? It needs a container. So the earth makes this kind of container or bowl shape so that the water can pool inside. It's pretty cool if you think about it that way. And so water also is wonderfully represented here in that it represents movement and flow. So our second chakra does deal with movement and flow, as well as sexuality, desire, passion, intimacy, need. That's all kind of stored here in the second chakra. And so I actually did not realize this for the longest time. But if you look at the word emotion, the root of it is motion, and there's just an E in front of it. So just as our sacral chakra represents all of that, as well as our emotional identity, it is about the movement and flow of emotions, the emotion, motion. So the second chakra is responsible for sending the emotions all throughout the body and experiencing and exploring and taking delight in those. So interestingly enough, psychologists have kind of outlined that if we restrict our emotion that would come with an emotion, such as, when you're crying, and you kind of are rocking back and forth, or when you're feeling tense and your face wants to kind of frown and you want to furrow your brow. If you restrict that motion, you don't allow it to come, you will actually feel the emotion longer. You will actually make your emotion more intense. So although you might want your sadness or your frustration to go away, if you don't let that emotion move through you, then it's going to stick around. So that's how closely emotion and motion are tied. So I hope that was interesting, because I certainly loved brushing up on that. And you can find a little bit more about it on my blog, wildyogatribe.com/sacral chakra. So also I wanted to talk about what a balanced chakra looks like here in the second chakra. So a balanced chakra would be someone who enjoys very graceful movements, who has a very high level of emotional intelligence, and who is comfortable exploring or experiencing or expressing sexuality, pleasure, desire, intimacy, however that looks like for that person. And a person who has an imbalanced chakra would really struggle with all those things. They would struggle with expressing emotions or feeling emotions. They would there's two sides, right? Either deficient or excessive. And either someone could be very over emotional and overreactive and oversensitive, or someone could be deficient and they could be rigid and frigid and repressed and numb, and they wouldn't even know how to express anything. So there's those two sides. And also there's the two sides when it comes to sexuality too. So either someone could be addicted to sex and could be obsessed with their relationships and have really horrible boundaries, be very needy and clingy. Or someone could be on the other side where they are unwilling to experience pleasure or form relationships at all. So they would be very completely denying that side of themselves, their sexual side. So either way, it can exist for an imbalanced chakra. And frequent things that can actually influence this is, if your parents or whoever was your caregivers really struggled to mirror your emotions, struggled to allow you to feel your emotions, if they were always telling you, don't cry, don't be angry, if they're always telling you not to feel, and they weren't allowing you to do that and to express that, then that can have a negative impact there. So can, of course, any kind of moral or religious severity, if in terms of anti-pleasure kind of models, that of course influences it. So does having a lot of things can happen there, right? Sexual abuse, emotional abuse, enmeshment. There can be various traumas that affects that sacral chakra and can influence how we express emotions, experience them, and how we allow ourselves to have a sexual and emotional identity. So, as promised, here's a couple yoga poses. Anything that works the hips is going to be wonderful for your second chakra. And so that'll be something like frog pose or butterfly or reclined butterfly pose. Those are just going to be wonderful. And so I like, though, to sit in a hip opening pose like frog or like wide seated forward fold. I like to sit in them for actually 10 minutes. I know that might sound a little ridiculous, but in taking such a long time to feel that pose, so much comes up. We store so much tension in our hips because we constantly are tensing those inner thigh muscles to either protect ourselves, we're scared of our sexual safety, so we tense, or either we're wanting to deny a pleasure, and so we clench, or we want to deny an emotion even, or we have a trauma that we store in our hips and that keeps us wanting to keep those legs closed. It really makes sense why the hips would be the area that we need to work in yoga. So take 10 minutes, do frog or do a wide-seated forward fold, or even child's pose, but if a wide-legged child's pose. So get your knees out past the length of your yoga mat, actually. So I do it on the long side. So feel that, breathe into your hips, really take time to feel it, and then see what comes up. And if there's anything you want to talk about, feel free to send me a private message. I know hip stuff can be really intense. So again, more at wildyogatribe.com/sacral chakra, SACRAL chakra. Okay, I hope you enjoyed talking about this with me today. It's always a pleasure to share with you. Okay, bye.